Hey there, everyone. Welcome to week 10 in our horticultural business class. I hope you are enjoying all the topics we've been talking about. I hope you're finding them useful as you consider the idea of running a small business. Remember, this is a sample kind of a class. You're just coming up with a business that you're using as an example for the entire semester. And we've been working on different aspects of that business. Well, starting now, we're going to begin to take those different elements, the market analysis, the name, the concept, even your resume and other little things we've been doing over the course of the semester. And we're going to put them together into a business plan. So the business plan is basically a document in which you take all of that information, all the things we've been thinking about, talking about, learning, and we compile it. Now, you may say, how am I supposed to write a plan about something that's fake? Well, you get to make up some of the details. And it's, depending on which business you're doing, which kind of model, whether it's a good or a service, some of the elements of the plan may or may not be relevant. So you're welcome to kind of either skip a few sections or refine them so that they're in line with what they need to be for your specific project. But let's take a look at, in general, what I want you to do. It's a little bit complicated, which is why I'm making this video here. In the assignment, remember, this is a rough draft. So this is just your attempt number one. You will be able to refine this with feedback. Now, I've created for you a template. The template is something you can use, and you just have to fill in the answers. But you can keep the formatting of the template. And I've made that in Google Docs. Now, sometimes Google is difficult to share, but I've put a link here, and this link is to copy the business plan template, because if I gave you my actual template and you started editing it, everyone would be editing the same thing. So the easiest way to work on this business plan is to click copy the business plan template, and it should take you to a link where you can copy the template that I've created for you. And if you make a copy, now you can rename this business plan template with your name. So you can say, Mark's business plan. There we go. Now let's go through this, and I'll show you what it is that we're going to be focusing on as we take a look at this template. Now, there's some instructions in the beginning, things to remember. This template is a generic document, so it's not the kind of thing that is going to be perfect for your situation. Feel free to edit this if you want. You may use the words product and service interchangeably, at least in this document. So you may have more than one product or service. For each of these headings that you're going to see, a simple yes or no answer is not good enough. You want to give some detail in what you are putting down on paper. So it will require a little bit of writing, but not necessarily a ton of writing. This does not need to be a 30-page document, so don't worry about that. In fact, there's really no page requirement. It's more about having the content filled in. Not every prompt will be relevant to you. You can add or remove from each heading as you see fit. Now go back to those sample business plans for the green industry that we looked at in earlier weeks. Those may be good places to look to help you as you're putting this together. And you may feel overwhelmed at first, but remember, You've already done some of this work. So all you have to do is take what you've done and plug it in to the business plan template. So here we go, your business name here, type that in. And just for the sake of it, we're going to say this is a 3-year plan. And this will have a table of contents that is automatically going to update for you. So you don't need to adjust these numbers. If you type and change anything, you can come up here and update the table of contents. Click that and it'll update so that everything is properly labeled. The page numbers are labeled. It's all kind of formatted for you. Now, notice it's a 14-page document already. Remember, it doesn't mean you need to be writing 14 pages. Just take some of the information you've already done and throw it in here. And bullet points are fine in some places, but try to turn some of those bullet points into sentences. Section 1 is the executive summary. This is the kind of a 1-page summary of what's in the document. It is going to describe the fundamental elements of your business. What business are you in? Why are you in it? What do you hope to accomplish? Describe the business in terms of where it has come from, where it is now, where you want to go. And this is something you do last. So work on all the other sections. And once you have the plan more or less finished, come up here and then just put like a sentence for every section of the plan. That's how you write that. And this is supposed to be the kind of thing that if someone didn't have time, they would only read this and they would know what's in the plan. Section 2, business description. What business are you in and why? Describe the industry. How does your company fit within the industry? Short-term and long-term objectives. What's the goals? What is your product or service? What do you make, serve, or sell? Market analysis. Describe the market, describe the customer, the size, geography. Does this look familiar? You've done this already. So take this information and put it under these headings. Now, when you come in here to type, delete these things. So when you start entering this information, type it down here, information about question 2, ... and I'll say all these things. And once you've answered that piece, delete that. So that way, by the time we're done with it, we're left with a nice, clean paper that just has all the information. Now I'm going to undo the things I just did because that was obviously just for demonstration purposes. Okay, so market analysis, target market, the size and trends, competition, and any other factors, especially like seasonal factors. So then you come down here with a marketing plan. So what are you going to do to be a success at selling your product? Are you going to have any marketing techniques, strategies, or tools? What will you charge for your product? Any advertising or promotion? What do you plan to do? Remember, you're kind of writing this for someone who may be an investor in your business, and they want to know that you've done a little bit of homework, so that way you know what you're talking about. If it's not totally complete, that's fine, but we need some ideas in each of these headings. Your operations. Do you have a factory? Do you have an office? Do you have a store? And you can adapt this to your specific situation for your sample business. What's your facility like? Where's your headquarters? Describe how big it is and what it is that you do. Where are you located? What kind of neighborhood? Why are you located here? What else is nearby? And what kind of zoning or permits does your business require? Remember, you've already done this work as well. How long will this present situation fit your needs? Are you going to need to grow and move on to a new business, a second location, things like that? Who supplies the raw materials of the product you sell? What kind of special handling needs do they have? And how will you get your customers the product? Do they come to you and buy something? Do you go to them and sell something? What kind of special equipment do you need to do the work? Now, here's a little table. You can fill it in. This is equipment that you're going to need. And you can say that you already have some. You can say you're going to need some. Remember, this is just an exercise, so you can kind of fill in some details. And what's the cost? How do I know the cost? All you got to do is go on Google, type in whatever the equipment is, lawnmower cost, take a look at some of the samples. If you see one for 150 bucks, say, hey, it's going to be 150 bucks. It's an estimate. Doesn't need to be perfect, but it does take a little bit of time. Labor. Do you have any additional employees? How many employees? What types of titles do they have? You know, how many classes are they divided into? And do you need employees? And just kind of give us some information about employment, your labor. How is your company organized? Who's a part of it? Remember, we talked about the doing business as your fictitious business statement. If you've got that in this sample, go ahead and say it's going to be in whatever county it's going to be in, San Diego County. Are you planning to have any patents, copyrights, anything like that? You may or may not. If you don't, go ahead and delete this whole section. Here's where you could put in a organizational chart, only if you want to, only if you've got a lot of people and you really think that that would be valuable, or just explain it. Say, hey, I'm the person in charge. I'm going to have one person who helps with accounting and another person who helps out in the field, and just explain that. And here's where you would list the names of those people. And at the bare minimum, include your name and your title and the example of pay. What pay are you planning to give yourself? And what pay would you be planning to give your employees? And you would include a resume here or summary of relevant experience. Here again, remember, that's an assignment we've done before. Write down a few sentences about risk. So what could happen that could cause you to not be successful? What may potentially go wrong, just to show potential investors that you've thought about those things. And if that happens, what are some backup plans? What are some alternatives or contingencies? And then we get to the last section. And again, I know this sounds overwhelming, but take it piece by piece. You've got plenty of time. We want to have this done before the end of the semester. You're going to have a few weeks to work on the rough draft. You'll get some feedback, and then you'll work on a final draft. So there's time here. Now it's the kind of the most important part. Remember when we analyzed those early business plans for the horticultural industry? Go back to that page, go back to that assignment and check that out. And what were they saying? What kind of things were they talking about? And you can copy some of those good ideas for your financial plan. So normally you would provide the financial statements for the past 3 years if you are an existing business. But if you're not an existing business, you're going to do an estimate or a projected financial plan for each of the following headings. Here you'll do a balance sheet. And again, if it's an existing business, you'll list everything you own and everything you owe. So how much money do you have? How much inventory do you have? And what kind of loans or what kind of things do you owe? Leases on vehicles, that sort of thing. If you don't have an actual business, you just make up some of these things. And this is the idea, like on your opening day, if you're not open yet as a business, the opening day, where will you be? What kind of inventory will you have? What kind of assets will you have? What sorts of fixtures, furniture, vehicles, machinery, equipment? What's the value? We want to see the dollar value of that. And then you add it all up here in the total. Then you take the liabilities. So any debt or any taxes you owe. And if you're not a business yet in this sample, you may not have much debt, which is good. If you've taken out any business loans, you would list those here. And then you do your assets minus your liabilities to get the net. And the net is going to be the value of your company. And then there's a separate line here for owner's equity. And this would be basically what you have in the company. So again, if all these don't make sense right now, that's fine. We can ask questions, we can work on it. But this is your invitation to get started. And remember last week we looked at not just a balance sheet, but a profit and loss statement, how much money you receive and where and how you spend it. So this could be actual or this could be projected sales. How much money do you plan to make from selling the good or service that you plan to sell in a year? Remember, I put right here 2022 calendar year, just so you can be thinking ahead. Projected profit and loss statement. And then, are there any returns or discounts on your sales? So you'll take your gross sales, you'll subtract any amount of money that you gave away as promotions or discounts or kind of freebies, and that equals your net sales. You think about the cost of making those goods or services. Did you have to buy materials? Did you have to put in labor? Did you need to hire subcontractors? Of course, these are a lot of things. You're probably thinking, well, I don't know any of this stuff. Give it a shot. Try to put in some numbers, see how things go. So you add up all of these costs of goods sold. You take your net sales or your total sales. I'm going to put net sales. Subtract your cost of goods sold. That's your gross profit. And then you take your overhead. So what does it cost to be in business? What kind of marketing do you do? Advertising and promotions. You total that up. What kind of administrative things are you doing? Do you have debt or bank charges? Are you giving any donations to charity? What about delivery expenses? And again, just put in some numbers here just for practice. Insurance, dues, subscriptions. Some of the things I give you some hints on how to calculate. So depreciation, you would take your total asset value, multiply it by 0.1 or 1/10. Office salaries, and then your office salary overhead. Do you pay people to do office work? Well, you need to pay their salary, but you also need to pay for their taxes and unemployment insurance and all the kind of stuff that goes with it. And that is 1.5 times the value of what you pay them in a year. All these things are listed. They may or may not be relevant to you, or you may have other things. So feel free to swap out some of these for whatever you want. But then you total them all up down here, and then you take your marketing and sales plus the general administrative, you add that up to make your total overhead, and you figure out your net profit before taxes. So that's your gross profit minus your overhead. Gross profit, remember, is your net sales minus cost of goods So you take that gross profit, you subtract any overhead, and voila, that's your final annual projection. Oh boy, that sounds like a ton of work, but I hope you have some fun with it. Just kind of play around with some of these numbers, figure it out, see how it looks. Hopefully you're in the positive. If you're in the positive, that's great. If not, see if there's any way you can change your projections to make it more profitable. Or it could be the case that in the first couple of years of starting a business, you're actually not profitable, but you would maybe take out a loan to help cover the costs until you build up your customers. So a lot of things, a lot of right answers, but I'm just giving you the template so you can see what it would actually start to look like for you to plug in some of the things we've been talking about on a sample business that you've been thinking about for the semester. And then finally, we have our cash flow projection, which is a little bit different than the previous item, which was the profit and loss. Here, we want to make sure you hang on to cash month by month over the year. So what you do is you estimate your cash flow for a 12-month period in the next fiscal year, which we'll just say 2022. And so what you do is you put your cash on hand, you add up any other types of income that you'll have for that month. So you're putting numbers in here, you get your total, then you put your things you're going to spend in that month. What kind of stuff do you have to buy? What kind of wages do you have to pay? Any rent, all of that kind of stuff. And then you get your total cash paid out. At the end of the month, you figure out your balance. So again, just like up above, you've got a balance. So what is your total cash after spending everything? You take the balance from the previous month, you come up to the next month, and you start there. So you say you had 10,000 to start, and we add in a bunch of things, and now you've got cash paid out. So your cash balance at the end of the month may be 2,500. And it's a little bit not very easy to read that. Got to make the number smaller. So imagine at the end of the first month, you've got 2,500 left in the bank. So now you come up here and you start with 2,500 for this month. I'm going to make, again, these numbers smaller. And I'll play with the formatting, so hopefully it doesn't mess you up too much here. So, but you do got to be able to read it. Maybe a little different kind of spreadsheet would be better. But say we start with 2,500. Let's hope we make 3,000. So then we're going to end up with 7,500. We come on down to here. We're going to pay 7,500, just like we did last time. And that's going to leave us with zero. Uh-oh. Now we're going to start the next month with $0. We'll get 3,000 in revenue. Sorry about the numbers kind of going on two lines there. And then if we have another month of typical sales where we spend 7,500, we're going to be negative. How much are we going to be negative? What is it? 4,500. That's no good because now we can't pay our people. So in the cash flow projection, this is where you're kind of thinking up here in this top area, you're thinking, okay, how much do I need to earn every month in order to be able to pay my bills, in order to be able to pay my people, pay the labor, and everything I need along these months in a year? How many dollars do I need to make each month? And you kind of just play around with it, adjust the numbers, think about what may be realistic. If your business is seasonal, like floral business, do you think flowers are going to have a greater sales in February? Absolutely. So you would plan for your February to be a larger sales month. And then you can imagine there may be other months where floral industry does not sell as much. Similarly, landscape maintenance. Do you think you mow the grass more in the summertime or in the wintertime? Well, it grows more in the summer. So you may have more work in the summer. And all of these things are how you would think about your specific business. Or is it the kind of thing where the weather or the seasons don't matter, and every month it'll be the same amount? So cash flow is a very important part of thinking about finances. And you may not have all that you need, but refer back to all of our references, refer back to the videos, the assignments, and you'll be able to get started. At the very end, we want a little bit. How much money do you want to ask, and under what term would you repay it? So if this whole thing was going to happen and was going to be real, how much money would you actually ask for? And would you be paying some interest, like 10% interest? I'll pay it back over 5 years, and I want $50,000 to start up. Something like that could be realistic, depending on the types of information you put here in your profit and loss, in the balance sheet, and in your cash flow projections. Sorry for scrolling fast. I hope that doesn't make you sick. And then lastly, just include how you're going to spend the money. Boy, oh boy, does that sound exciting to you? Or does that sound like a giant pain in the neck and you're like, how on earth will I find the time to work on this at this point in the semester? Well, I want to reassure you. I want you to know that this is the project. This is the focus from here on out. So you don't have to have it all done right away. And you've already done a lot of the work. So go back and look at all your assignments, take those assignments first and plug them into the template. That's the first thing you do. And then start to look at the sections where there may be some gaps. And is it okay to change answers? Sure. You don't have to stick to what you used in the first assignments. You can modify that as you go. And even still, this is a rough draft, but I'm giving you the rough draft deadline because I want you to actually work on it, fill it in, and then it forces you to not wait till the very end. Then you'll be able to get a little bit of feedback and review, and then we will work on your final draft. So I hope that you can kind of take everything we've talked about, start bringing it all together, and that's going to be the focus for the next several weeks. And don't forget about it. If you've got other classes or work or obligations, it may be tempting to kind of lighten up your work and take it easy here. I don't want you to do that. I want you to keep focus on this because it will pay off. And I promise it will be a great learning experience. And the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. So as always, reach out to me this week with any questions in the Q&A discussion. You can contact me via the Canvas inbox. And otherwise, we'll be seeing you on the inside as you start working on your rough draft for the business plan this week in Horticultural Business Practices. Okay, thanks a lot and take care, everyone. Have a great week.